Good morning. Welcome to the Art Lewis Show for another week here on this Monday morning. After 10 o'clock news, we're going to have Lindsay Richardson and Matt Fallon with us to talk about the Bay Area Women's Center. At 11 o'clock this morning, we will learn about the Midland Senior Services Group. For this hour, later on in the hour, we'll have open phones, but we're going to start learning about a program called MyAble. And with us this morning is the director of MyAble here in Michigan. He is our Scott DeVerona. Scott, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us. Also with us this morning from the Saginaw ISD is Jessica Bloom. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, Scott, let's start with, I think, an overview of what MyAble is and its concept, because you're on a road show now to talk all about it. So let's begin with that.
Sure. MyAble is a 529 disability savings program. It allows individuals and their families to save up to $19,000 a year without jeopardizing their eligibility for Medicaid or SSI. It's what we feel is an individual with disabilities' first chance to have a stake in their financial future.
So a couple of questions come up immediately. Is this a program for low income or lower income? And must you have someone disabled or with a disability in order to participate?
Correct. In order to participate in this program, you must have a disability before age 26, but you can be any age to open an account. And this account is for all income levels. There are no income levels associated with eligibility for ABLE, so anyone can open an ABLE account as long as they have a disability before age 26.
And how do I ask this one? What do we consider a disability?
Great question. Yes, if it's not the number one question, it's the number two question that I get. Am I qualified for this program? The IRS and the Social Security Administration were very, very lenient in what they consider to be a disability. You must be eligible for SSI or SSDI because of a disability.
Okay.
Or you can have a condition listed on the Social Security Administration Compassionate Allowances list, or we actually have a third method, and if neither of those first two methods apply, you can get a note from your doctor to say that you are eligible for an ABLE account. So it is very simple to prove eligibility.
And what does it provide that's different than if I just went to my credit union and put money in the bank?
Yep, great question. Many individuals with disabilities rely on state and federal benefits that are what's called means tested, meaning if you have more than $2,000 in assets, you're not eligible for some of the programs.
Right.
ABLE assets are excluded from those eligibility checks. So you no longer are limited to that $2,000 in assets. So it's a chance for individuals with disabilities and their families to save money for their disability-related expenses without jeopardizing their eligibility for Medicaid or SSI.
Okay, that brings in the next question then. You say they're qualified expenses. You can't just use this money for a vacation?
Well, if that's not the number one question that I get, it's the number two question that I get. What can I use the money for? So this program was modeled after the 529 education program, where you save money for educational expenses like tuition and books and fees and things like that.
Fixed expense. Yeah.
Exactly. However, when the IRS and the Social Security Administration were creating this legislation, they said, we want people to use these accounts for anything. So it can be used for education, transportation, housing, healthcare, assistive technology. Basically anything a person with a disability needs to spend money for, they can use their ABLE account to pay for those things. And yes, vacation is included, because going from Michigan to Florida or Hawaii is a transportation cost, and staying at an Airbnb or a condo or a hotel is a housing cost, and that is an allowable expense out of an ABLE account.
So why don't we just say there's no limitations? You might
because
as well.
The answer is yes. Neither the IRS nor the Social Security Administration have ever said to any ABLE program, this is not an allowable expense. I suspect that at some point maybe they will, but they haven't at this point.
And you mentioned ABLE accounts. This is not a local thing. This is a national movement.
So the legislation was passed nationally in 2014. Michigan legislation was passed in 2015, and we opened our first account in 2016. There are 48 other ABLE programs throughout the United States. There are no residency restrictions in Michigan, so you don't have to be a Michigan resident to participate in our program. And furthermore, if you don't like Michigan's program for whatever reason, you can go to another state as well.
Are they different?
The rules are the same throughout the country. Some of the state legislatures have created some tax incentives for in-state programs. For instance, in the state of Michigan, you get an income tax deduction for any contributions made up to $5,000 on an individual income tax return. For a joint couple, it's a $10,000 deduction. So it's a great opportunity for families who have been historically told, don't provide money, don't save for this individual because they'll lose their eligibility. Now here's a chance to give themselves a tax deduction and also help pay for those expenses.
Jessica, what's your role in all of this?
So I have kind of a dual unique role. I am a special education supervisor for the Saginaw ISD and also the assistive technology coordinator, and I've been in special education for 19 years. And so this program has allowed me to help parents and students be able to save money and promote their ability to be independent. And then I am also a parent of a 9-year-old little boy who is autistic and non-speaking. And so the MyAble account, which I have not opened as of yet, but plan on doing today, is something that I'm so excited for as a parent to be able to do for my son.
Scott will give you the paperwork.
Yeah, yep, he
Without a
definitely
doubt.
will. I'm heading over to SVSU after this, and but yeah, as a parent, it is probably, we always are worrying about what our future is going to look like for our children with disabilities, and the restrictions that we have on the amount of money that they can save has traditionally not been a lot, and so. This gives the opportunity for not only us to save, but you can also have family members gift money into this account and it becomes a tax write-off too. So for my kiddo who really doesn't have a high interest in really expensive things, it's great for birthday gifts. It's great for different things like that, so that they're actually putting money into an account that he can use for his future.
Up to what age can you put money in the account?
So there is no age limit on how old you need to be to open an account. I have opened accounts for people as young as less than 1 year old, and I have accounts with people in their 80s. The eligibility restrictions are for when the disability happened. You can open an account and use an account at any age.
I mean, with the lack of restrictions on use, the lack of limitation on age, the lack of limitation on income, it almost seems like it's just another program that doesn't have many restrictions on it.
Yeah, my number one problem is awareness. There are not enough people who are aware of this program, and that's why we're doing these road shows. We did one in Lansing last week. We're here in Saginaw Valley this week. We're going to be in Detroit later on this summer. We're going to do a UP tour. Just to help individuals with disabilities and their families get the word out about this program. Awareness is my number one issue. We anticipate there's between 400,000 and 500,000 people in the state of Michigan who are eligible for this program, and we've only reached 1%.
Do you work with disability organizations?
Absolutely, yes. Some of our greatest partnerships are with disability advocacy organizations that help share our word and to prepare individuals with disabilities for their financial futures.
What will you do at Saginaw Valley today?
So we have a whole press conference where a number of individuals, including myself, will be speaking about the program and sharing the opportunity. Then I will also do a brief presentation on all the rules, how to enroll, and things like that. And then we're also going to do an enrollment session where I hope many other people will enroll in the program and start saving for their disability expenses.
There's your chance, Jessica. Yeah. We're going to take a break and be back with our guests. One more segment. And then we have to let them go because they have to be at the university by 10 o'clock. We'll be back.
The Bay City Noon Optimist Club travel.
All right, we're back with you. In studio with me are Scott Verona. He is the director of MyAble, a statewide program, actually national program. This one put on by the Michigan Department of Treasury. It's a disability savings program. Also with us is Jessica Bloom from the Saginaw ISD. And this question, I guess, would be for Jessica, came from a listener. Are you aware of a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes in relation to children without nonverbal autism?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You are now.
I have not heard of that one yet.
I'll leave this with you then.
All right.
That's very good. So you're going to be at Saginaw Valley beginning at 10 o'clock this morning. What's the procedure? And public's invited? Yes?
Public is invited, yes. It is a press conference, so we will have members of the press there. Basically, it's an opportunity for people to listen to the ABLE story, how it came about, why it came about, and it's a chance for them to ask questions. We're going to have a panel of experts, including myself and Jessica, there to answer questions and to explain the ABLE program and the opportunity for individuals to enroll in our program.
Where is when you make the deposit, where does it go to? Is it in a financial institution or is it the state treasury? Or
Yeah, the state treasury is a part of the National ABLE Alliance. There are 19 states along with D.C. that are part of the National ABLE Alliance. And all the funds are invested with an organization that manages that trust on behalf of the National ABLE Alliance. And there's over like $500 million in the National ABLE Alliance right now.
Does it work like a bank account for the depositor? I mean,
Yes.
if I put the money in, how do I take it out?
Yeah, great question. One of the easiest ways and one of the ways that we encourage for our clients is to opt into the debit card. You can use a MyAble debit card anywhere that MasterCard is accepted. So you can use it at your pharmacy, at your doctor's office, at your grocery store, at your restaurants.
Comes with the account?
Comes with the account. It's optional. There are other investments available aside from the checking account. So if you decide to invest in one of our 8 different investment options, you could invest in the stock market. But if
sort of like a 401k.
Very, very similar to an investment vehicle that, like a 401k or a 457 or any of the other type of, like a Roth IRA. A lot of people are talking about utilizing an ABLE account as a retirement vehicle as well for individuals with disabilities.
What happens, Scott? This is a difficult question, but you build this account because you have somebody in your family who has a disability as listed. If that person passes, what happens to that fund?
Great question. I'm going to give you 2 answers. The federal legislation says that the Michigan Medicaid program may make a claim to what is left when an ABLE account, when the account owner passes away. And a lot of parents think, well, I'm not going to do that because that's a deal breaker for me. Completely understandable. In the state of Michigan, Medicaid has only made 1 claim. And the only reason that they made that claim was because the individual who passed away had no next of kin, no parents, no siblings, no surviving instructions.
No succession for the...
Exactly. In every other case where we have had account owners pass away, the money has become just like any other financial asset. It has gone on to the next of kin. So Michigan Medicaid may make a claim in the future, but they haven't at this point except in that 1 instance.
So they're secondary to the claim program.
Correct.
In fact.
Yes.
How long does it take? You say you get a MasterCard with this thing?
Yep, a debit card.
So you put the money in. You can use the money whenever you feel like it then.
That is correct. Pretty much as soon as the funds show up in our system, you can use that debit card to make your purchases.
And nobody comes to call and says justify it?
No. In the history of this program, we've never had to justify any expenditures made from the ABLE program because that's the way the program is run. It's not like a health savings account where you have to provide receipts or anything like that. There's never been any sort of check.
Jessica, let me ask, you mentioned your son is nonverbal, autistic. How old is he?
He's 9.
And when did you first discover the autism?
We got a medical diagnosis at the age of 3.5, but when he was probably around a year to 16 months old is when we started to see some signs and some delays. And I worked through our school system to get early on services at first, and then also outside medical therapy, such as speech therapy and occupational therapy. And then we got an official diagnosis at 3.5, and then was able to start accessing the ABA therapies and some of the other therapies that are for children with autism.
You had to learn a lot, didn't you?
Absolutely. And what I say, the role that I'm in, being in special education for 19 years, has been a benefit for me because I obviously know some of the systems, but I also say with a caveat, it's also been very difficult for me to navigate the system with a person who has a lot of education in special education. So my goal is always to help parents navigate through that system from the school side setting and from the medical side setting, and as a parent to understand all of those things that are out there for them.
You mentioned one of the things is speech therapy. Is he uttering now?
He says mama, and he says a lot of different sounds, but he also uses a speech generating device. So he has an iPad with a speech generating app on it.
So he comprehends.
Absolutely, yes. His receptive language is pretty spot on for his age. It's just obviously expressively he's not able to express language. But he uses a speech device, like he types his name, he types his my phone number. He uses that.
He's aware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did it change your life?
That's a very loaded question, and honestly, it has changed my life in so many ways. It's a grieving process when you get a diagnosis like that as a parent, but then it's beautiful. He has the most beautiful mind that I have ever encountered. And so the ability to be able to get some of these things, we talked a little bit about the assistive technology part. My son's speech device is covered by insurance, but there are things out there that are like new and groundbreaking, because I am the assistive technology coordinator at the ISD, that are not currently covered by insurances because they're so new. And so accounts like these would be able to fund some of those things that are really dire for our students with disabilities and children with disabilities to be able to be independent.
Last question. Do you expect any change in his condition at all down the road?
So my biggest goal for my son is independence, and as absolutely independent as he can be. Do I think he's ever going to talk? I don't know. But for me, it's
a possibility.
It is. It's a possibility. There's definitely been times and stories that I've heard of students and children that were older that began to talk. But you know what? That's not uber important to me anymore. It really has been a journey that I've gone on, and now communication is important to me, and every avenue that I can give him to be able to communicate his needs, his wants, his desires is what's important to me.
Thanks for talking about it.
Yeah.
Scott, let me ask in conclusion here, if someone doesn't come to the meeting today but they want to get involved in the program, where should they go?
Great question. Thank you. Everything that is available out there is on our website, myable.org. That includes links to our enrollment, information on our prospectuses, and all of our recorded webinars are available at myable.org for people to go through.
And just so everybody understands, it's myable, it's capital M, little I, able.
Correct. Thank you. And it's a wonderful opportunity for people to get involved in this program and to see what good we're doing, and maybe potentially to join our road show that we're going to do throughout this summer.
Well, your road show is awaiting. So thank you much for being with us this morning. I'll check in with you down the road again.
Thank you so much, Art, for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take a break. Come back. We'll have open phones for the remainder of the hour at 989-752-6111.
Welcome to retirement. Now,
Hi, we're back with you here on WSGW. Open phones for the remainder of the hour. And let's go to them this morning. And we will say good morning to Linda in Bay City. Linda, good morning.
Good morning. We, too, have a disabled daughter and have tried to work with the system, but the $2,000 doesn't cut it. And so you're always living in the fear of your balance is going to get too high, and you'll get pulled into Social Security and have to go through your records for the last 5 years. I just need to know exactly where is this press conference being held?
Saginaw Valley State
Well, we're
University.
on our way.
Okay. I would go into the main Granings Common building because more than likely it would be in there. It's a good question I should have asked, but I would guess that's where it's going to be.
In the Commons.
Yeah, that's the Graining Commons building is where the theaters are.
Don't know that. We're coming in on Bay Road.
You're coming in on Bay Road? Okay.
Yes.
You go in the main entrance of the university.
Right.
You drive in, and the first huge building on the right side is Graining Commons. So you go down to the road that turns just before it, and you pull in and park in that big parking lot there, and then walk into the building. If it is not in there, they will tell you, all right, hang on a second. Curtis Hall, second floor. Okay, that is the Graining Commons. So you would go in that building, take the elevator, which is to the right when you go in, and go up to the second floor. And there are a couple of banquet rooms up there, and there are meeting rooms up there, and that's probably where the press conference is going to be.
Very good. Thank
all right. You. You're welcome. Thanks for calling. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Jonathan, for that. There is, I guess the nice thing about this program that Scott mentioned during the discussion is that you bypass that $2,000 limit, which could risk Medicaid and other types of limitations, if you will. All right, let's talk to Scott in Saginaw. Scott, good morning to you.
Hey, morning, Art. Over the weekend here, I've been hearing some terms going around: constitutional crises, democracy at risk.
Oh yeah.
When they're referring to Donald Trump and the deportation efforts. But I'd like to remind some of the callers here that less than a year ago, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were toting that they were deporting illegals. Not only were they deporting them, it was record numbers. Kamala Harris on the campaign trail went a step further and said, we are deporting more than Donald Trump did in his term. Now, these hypocrites have turned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden it's a bad thing. And it's just, that's what I say. What do these people stand for? They don't stand for anything. All the Democrat Party is becoming is oppositional hatred.
Well, you know, the thing about it, too, they're looking for their new leader, and it appears that Bernie Sanders and AOC are rising to the top, to which I say, bring it on.
But that's, yeah. Here's another one, though, with these hypocrites, too. Elon Musk, 2 years ago, was a darling of the Democrat Party because he was making American-made vehicles that were good for the environment.
Yep.
And now that they can't control them, these left-wing lunatics are doing what? Going after U.S. citizens, burning their cars, going to their homes, chasing them down on the expressway.
There's no excuse for that. There's none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
It comes back to Art. All these people today stand for in the Democrat Party is oppositional hate. You tell them the sky's blue, it depends who's saying it. No. And it's sick. It's just absolute hatred.
Oh, well. Tell you this much, just so you understand, they're here to stay. They're not going anywhere.
It's dangerous. And now we have the media trying to defend this TDA gang that's raping and killing Americans. Well, how do we know they're really bad people?
Right, yeah. All right.
And one last question here. Joe Biden said he was deporting people, but Donald Trump had to force countries to take the people back. Where was Joe deporting them to? Florida?
I don't know. All right, good enough, Scott.
All
Thanks.
right, Art.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, we'll take a break. Come back. We'll get to Gene in Bay City when we return. Let me take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland next to my car dealer, McDonald Ford. And I've been asked, why do you keep saying your car dealer? Well, it's because that's where I buy my cars. That's why I say that. Quick Lane is the place you go for all of your routine maintenance on any make and model of car. They keep them all in tip-top shape. That includes oil changes and tires, batteries, brakes. And speaking of tires, you know where I'm going with this. They have been selling new tires for just $5 over cost. How can you do any better than that? Stick around, I'll tell you. But I want to tell you first, these are brand names. They're not off-brands. They're not tires you never heard of. Michelin, Goodyear, BF Goodrich, that's what these tires are. And some of them come with an additional $60 to $100 in rebates. There is extra for installation, including balancing and lifetime tire repairs. You can enjoy their customer lounge with internet and free ice cream bars at Quick Lane Freeland, next to my car dealer, McDonald Ford. And if you're in the market for a new or a previously owned vehicle, stop in and take a look at the enormous selection waiting you at McDonald Ford. Do it today.
It could be the best years of your...
And here on the Art Lewis Show, back to our phones. Gene is in Bay City. Gene, good morning.
Good morning. I always pay my utility bills and insurance and everything by check the next day as soon as I got the bill. I got a nasty letter from my Blue Cross Health Insurance saying if I don't pay my bills, they're canceling my health insurance. I called up, and they had just gotten the check. It took almost 2 weeks for them to receive my payment. And that's the same with my other bills, which, of course, AT&T and cable, when you pay late, they charge you a $10 late fee. Well, that, I believe, is happening because of all these cuts that Trump's people are making to the Postal Service.
And what cuts are those? How many people have been laid off in the Postal Service?
I don't know. All I know is that everybody...
Well, if you don't know, Gene, how can you say
my
it?
bills aren't being received until, instead, it was always 4 or 5 days at the most.
So is that
Now
every
it's
bill or
taking
just
2
that one?
weeks.
Is that every bill or was it just that one bill?
I sent... I went in to check how many of my checks have been paid from that time. None of them have been cashed yet. So I believe that they haven't received them yet because they haven't been cashed. And one of my friends that takes care of my animals on my 10-acre little hobby farm, I sent him a bill, and it's been a week and a half, and he hasn't gotten my check yet either, so I'm going to have to drive up and pay him in person.
I don't know what to tell you because I seem to get all my mail on time and anything I send out gets there on time. I don't know what to tell you.
Do you pay electronically on your computer or do you pay by check?
It's a mix. I pay mostly on my computer, but I send out 2 or 3 a month, and they get them on time.
And
now, sometimes they don't cash the checks right away, and I know that because I've had to call and ask.
It's been my understanding in the past that Bay City checks went to the Saginaw Distribution Center because I used to, when I had something late, I used to drive to Saginaw and mail it in
but
there.
That center hasn't been a distribution center for years. There's talk of it coming back again, but that hasn't been a distribution hub like it used to be for years. All goes down to Pontiac now.
We'll see what happens. You know, I know you're Republican, and this is a Republican.
It's got nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. Nothing whatsoever.
Well, you always stick up for what Republicans are doing, and I truly believe this is going to be a problem for everybody that ending up paying their bills late and getting penalties.
Okay.
I don't think these people making all these cutting things in half realize
they haven't cut the post office in half. They've hardly done anything to the post office. Post office has been in trouble for years.
You tell me why it took 2 weeks for my.
I don't know.
You'd
have to ask the post office that question, but I'm telling you, the post office has been in trouble for years, financially. There's talk of moving them under the Department of Commerce, which would probably be smart.
They have always gotten my payment within 4 or 5 days.
Well,
now it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks before they're. Well,
okay,
when
Gene.
people start getting penalties from the
Yeah.
cable company and everything because their bills are getting there late. You're going to tell
right.
me that it has nothing to do with what they're cutting at the post office.
Nope, because I can go back to the Biden administration and the Bush I can go back to all the administrations, and they're going to people that'll call here and tell you exactly the same thing back then. Their bills were late.
Not 2 weeks.
Okay.
Not 2 weeks.
All right, Gene.
Well, I mean,
Good
like
luck.
I said,
All right.
you have to stick up for the Republicans.